Hi, folks. Down the road again with Lyndy Brannen. Here's Tybee, Polar Plunge. Lots of folks took the big dive. See if you recognize anybody in our video coming up. And the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. It was 50 years ago, come February 9th. Some folks want to remember Savannah's rock and roll history in connection with that anniversary. But let's go to the beach. See who you recognize at the Polar Plunge. Most of these folks were bundled up on the beach and didn't take the big dive. It's Robert Richardson there in the Fred Flintstone Headed to the Lodge hat. We didn't identify the king and queen, but they were having a great time. You gotta keep moving if you want to stay warm on this kind of day, let me tell you. Or get some hot chocolate. We ran into our buddy Gerald with the hot chocolate up on the pavilion. Stop by Gerald's Pig and Shrimp at E. Trip you. Take the Tybee. All right, now watch this. The other little child right there in her mom's arms. Not too sure who's wearing that Big Bird suit. All right, look now at the Polar Plunge T-shirt. That's what you got if you took the big dive and paid the dollars and helped support the Tybee Post Theater. It really was a miserable day on Tybee. Pictures don't quite do it justice as to how uncomfortable a lot of these folks were. Angela Beasley's Puppet People were there and having a great time. All right, this big anniversary coming up. If you're old enough to remember, it was 50 years ago that the Beatles first appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. Well, this anniversary's got some local folks thinking about Savannah's rock and roll history.
The 50-year anniversary of the Beatles playing the Ed Sullivan Show was February 9th, 2014. We felt like, okay, that's going to be a big cultural moment. And so we put together this little Savannah Rocks idea, kind of like to put a surfboard up on that wave. And the surfboard has sort of two parts to it. One is a 30-foot long, user-generated, community-built, historical bulletin board of rock music in Savannah.
And for the past few weeks, folks have been digging in their closets and pulling out memories.
I remember when the Beatles came out, but before that, Ventures were the band. Every band was an instrumental band. That's what they did. And then the Beatles hit. And had to find somebody who knew how to sing then. Then that became an issue. And a lot of bands disappeared because nobody in their band sang, and then moved back to Savannah probably 67 and there. And it was going pretty full swing then. I mean, the Roadies had their Battle of the Bands thing going on in the Kmart parking lot. That was a huge event in Savannah at the time. And the common joke at the time was every high school had a band. But none of us could all play together on the same night because we didn't have enough equipment. We had to borrow. I remember the band Deep Blue, which was Skip Hinley, Donnie Cogdale, a couple of those guys. They had a job in Brunswick and called us because we had part of their PA. So we had to drive to Brunswick so they could do their gig.
These stories are pretty old, and the world certainly has changed in the last 30 or 40 or 50 years. But, the same thing's still happening.
When you're making history, you don't know it's history. And I think that's really what's happening in Savannah now. I mean, there are bands that are playing, and in 20, 30 years, people are going to think, oh, those were the best years of my life, and, we'll manage to have this in place. I did want to just quickly say that, there was some great things that happened in Savannah, and one of the great things that happened for me anyway was that Donnie Cogdale and Stevie Bryan, who was with the Checkmates, we went to see James Brown in the National Guard Armory. And I think we were like 12 or 13. We were young. And we saw James Brown, and I mean, that kind of changed our lives. And then, Savannah had its very own James Brown as well. And so there's a whole story there.
Well, the display is up now at the Sentient Bean. Drop by and take a look. But there's still more to come.
The second thing we're doing is a concert on February 7th over at the American Legion right behind the Brighter Day here. And we're going to have the Veriflames from that day. We're going to have a band that we might call the Villa Villa All-Stars. The Rogues are going to jump in. GAM, a great band that Robin's so familiar with and all your friends are involved in. And then Cusses, which is maybe one of the two or three most energetic bands of the day. are all going to be there, and they're going to do a mix of their own stuff and Beatles stuff. And then, interestingly, and just so you know, Ed Sullivan's going to be there.
He'll be just as stiff as he was then.
Okay, and we hear LB playing the guitar, continuing our look back at rock and roll history. We go out west to Vidalia and Onion Country.
Sort of the right thing at the right time, and we had a pretty good sound, and people just really embraced us.